The last day of a death row inmate. What happens before you die? Hi everyone. Imagine knowing exactly when you're going to die. Not because of illness or fate, but because it's scheduled on the calendar, down to the minute. This isn't the plot of a movie. It's the real-life countdown that every death row inmate must face in their final 24 hours. There's no more courtroom drama, no more appeals, just a haunting ritual of routine and finality. From the moment they're moved to the death house, everything changes: the air, the silence, the stares. Guards tighten their grip. The clock becomes their shadow. There's a last meal, a last call, a final goodbye, and for some, a moment of reflection or regret. But what really happens in that final day? How do states prepare a person to die? And what does it reveal about justice or mercy in America today? Let's step behind the prison walls and into the final 24 hours of the condemned. Dear friends, the final 24 hours of a death row inmate are unlike anything else in the American justice system. It's a cold, procedural, and highly orchestrated process, a carefully timed ritual designed to bring closure, justice, or, in some cases, controversy. This is not about the crime that brought the prisoner to death row. It's about what happens when that sentence becomes real. It all begins around 8 p.m., the night before the scheduled execution. At that moment, the inmate is removed from their regular death row cell and transferred to the death house, a stark, isolated holding area located just feet away from the execution chamber. Here, under constant surveillance, their final day begins. The move itself is heavily guarded. Every step is calculated. Officers perform a full-body search, not just for weapons, but to prevent the condemned from attempting suicide before the state can carry out its task. Even the van ride to the death house, if necessary, is planned with military precision, often under cover of darkness, and sometimes involving decoy vehicles to prevent any last-minute ambushes or protester interference. Once inside, the prisoner is given a single-person cell with basic amenities: a bed, a toilet, a sink, and a shower. The space is sterile, cold, and eerily quiet. And just a few steps away sits the execution chamber, a constant reminder of what's coming. Sleep doesn't come easily, if at all. Some inmates spend the night pacing. Others try to write letters, read scripture, or speak with a spiritual advisor. Some simply stare at the walls, lost in thought. Each hour ticks by louder than the last. At 4 hours and 30 minutes a.m., the final day begins. It's an early wake-up for a reason. The morning is packed with procedures, final appeals, and last visits. Even though nearly every legal option has been exhausted, the inmates' lawyers often make last-ditch efforts, filing appeals, requesting stays, hoping for intervention from a governor or the U.S. Supreme Court. Sometimes these appeals spark hours of uncertainty. Other times, the outcome is as inevitable as the sunrise. Throughout the morning, the inmate is permitted time with loved ones, usually behind glass, sometimes face-to-face under close supervision. The interactions are surreal. Tears are common, but not always. Some families try to keep it light, pretending for a few minutes that this is just another visit. Others deliver emotional farewells, filled with words left unsaid for decades. There's also the chaplain, a constant presence for many inmates, whether they're religious or not. Many find themselves seeking counsel. The chaplain might offer prayers, read scripture, or simply sit in silence. In these final moments, even hardened criminals have questions about what comes next. Then comes the last meal, a ritual as controversial as it is symbolic. Depending on the state, the condemned is allowed to request a special meal, though there are limitations. Some states impose strict budget limits, while others have banned the tradition altogether after complaints of abuse. But in most cases, the prisoner is granted one final indulgence. Some choose extravagant spreads: shrimp, steak, fried chicken. Others request nothing at all. Behind the scenes, execution teams are already preparing. Every piece of equipment is double-checked. In the case of lethal injection, the most common method, the IVs, heart monitors, gurney straps, and communication lines are all tested. If the electric chair or gas chamber is to be used, even more precautions are taken. Technicians rehearse the process to ensure nothing goes wrong, because when things go wrong during an execution, the consequences are public, painful, and permanent. By 5 p.m., the witnesses begin to arrive. journalists, victims' family members, supporters of the inmate. Sometimes, total strangers attend witnesses chosen to represent the public. They are escorted into a waiting room, briefed on the procedure, and reminded of the rules: no shouting, no speaking, no recording. This is not a spectacle. It's a sentence being carried out. Meanwhile, the condemned is offered one final chance for contact, a phone call, often to family, a lawyer, or even the media. The chaplain is typically by their side, along with guards who remain just inches away at all times. The inmate may be given a new prison uniform, clean, simple, and unadorned. There's a final shower. Every movement is under watch, even a last breath before the execution is counted. Finally, just before the scheduled hour, the inmate is led from their holding cell to the execution chamber. For some, it's just a few feet, but those steps are the longest of their life. In states using lethal injection, the prisoner is strapped to a gurney, arms extended, IVs inserted, a heart monitor attached. If lethal gas is used, the inmate is seated and sealed in an airtight chamber. If it's the electric chair, they're strapped into place and the electrodes attached. Everything must be precise. Then, the curtain is drawn. The witnesses can see the inmate. The warden asks if they have any final words. Some offer apologies. Some maintain innocence. Others curse the system with their last breath. A few remain silent. The execution begins. For lethal injection, the procedure typically involves 3 drugs, the first to sedate, the second to paralyze, the third to stop the heart. Death can come within minutes or stretch out if complications arise. In electric chair executions, a jolt of up to 2,450 volts surges through the body, stopping the heart, often leaving burns and disfigurement. The gas chamber suffocates slowly, and in rare states like Utah, a firing squad still remains an option. After death is confirmed by a doctor, the curtain is drawn, and the body is removed from the chamber. An autopsy follows, as required by law. The cause of death is recorded. The body is then offered to the family for burial or cremation. If no one claims it, the remains are interred in a prison cemetery or donated for research. From start to finish, the final 24 hours of a death row inmate are filled with ritual, dread, and irreversible finality. It is a system designed to deliver justice, but often leaves behind questions about morality, mercy, and the human cost of capital punishment. In the end, the final 24 hours on death row are not just a countdown to death. They're a confrontation with everything that came before. For the condemned, it's a time of reflection, of reckoning, or perhaps denial. For the victims' families, it may bring closure or open new wounds. And for society, it's a ritual steeped in both justice and controversy. The procedures are clinical, the emotions are raw, and every detail from a final meal to a final word echoes with the weight of a life extinguished by law. Whether you view the death penalty as justice served or a deeply flawed system, one thing is certain: no one walks away from those final 24 hours unchanged. What are your thoughts? Should the ritual of execution be reformed or abolished altogether? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more real-life stories from the darkest corners of justice, hit like and subscribe. We'll be watching.